maybe?
Yes, you got it.
Okay. So, yeah, this is a chapter on the spine. Welcome everybody back from it's been a little over a month we've been together. So the spinal cord, we think of as, the spine. There's the spinal cord is not the spine though. The spine um, is is actually consists of 18 vertebrae, which correspond to the 18 ribs. There are 18, and there are ribs and vertebrae on the right side and the left side. And those are what are counted among the 248 limbs that we have talked about as the positive mitzvot. However, there's a spinal cord, which is in the middle. It's actually inside the bone of the spine, inside a canal, which is wrapped in meninges, which is wrapped in like a fluid-filled area which protects the spine. And the cord doesn't have any mitzvah connected to it because it's said that it supports and holds up the entire system of mitzvot. The same way the spinal cord holds our bodies up and holds all the mitzvos of the vertebrae and the ribs up. So prayer is referred to as the backbone of, or holds up, the mitzvot which correspond to each vertebrae. In other words, the prayer, it corresponds to the spinal cord, which is the backbone of the spine, which is the backbone of the mitzvot. So, and it said that it's actually the life force, the blood, the soul of every single mitzvah. It's connected to the vertebrae, right? The cord is like inside, and the spine is connected to the vertebrae, and it's influenced by the heart and the brain. So you can see the way it's influenced to the brain because it's grouped in the back here by the occipital bone, which connects it to the brain. But we wonder, how is it connected to the heart? So it comes down by way of the neck, and in essence, it's kind of there's a pasuk that says there's always this spiritual battle that goes on between the evil snake, or the Yetzer Hara in man, and the and prayer. And those of us who pray, which is probably most of us in some way or another, there's always something that's distracting us. It's always seemingly a battle. Um, but this idea of separation of the head and then the body, as Sue was saying before, it's kind of an illusion. The First of all, the vertebrae themselves are separated into two parts, the right and the left. So we have, the Hasidic mitzvot and the Gevurdik mitzvot, the ones from love, the ones from yera, or fear. And the first mitzvah on the right, I can pull up a picture here. It's a picture from the book. Is the mitzvah to honor. Well, first, why don't we do this first? So this is a picture. The yellow in the picture is the cord, and you can see that there are kind of two perceptions. One is and this comes from a pasuk in Bamidbar that talks about Yaakov and Yisrael, and the distinction is made about the prayer of the 6 days of the week and the prayer on Shabbat, and how the prayer of the 6 days of the week is Yaakov, and on Shabbat it's Yisrael. And there's this difference in this, what in Hebrew is called dat tachton, or lower unity, and dat elyon, upper unity. So this upper unity, which is here in the head, this unification of Chachma and Bina and Dot, it's a place in the head which is seemingly unified. In other words, there's no different vertebrae or ribs sticking out. It's a unification of the head. And then comes the back of the neck, which we learned is stubbornness, because it's kind of the beginning of this division, this separation of reality, where it seems like the brain is separate from the rest of our body, but it's not. And so the lower part, which is where the spine is referred to as dat takton, because it brings the upper part and unifies it with the lower part, with Tiferet, with the emotions, the six midot. And each one of these, you see the cord is the yellow, and the purple is the vertebrae on each side, and then you have the rib cage. So the Semet Tzedek has a very nice teaching on this. He says that these two perceptions are these divisions are really not true. We perceive separateness, but they're not separate. And he brings the idea that how Dat Elyon is the pervading power on Shabbat, where there's unity and oneness and the yichud of HaKadosh Baruch Hu with everything. But during the rest of the week, it seems that it isn't. So one is kind of from a God perspective, and one is from like a perspective of humanity. When we talked previously about the jugular veins, we talked about the veins that are in the brain and carry blood and a life force throughout the whole body. And he explains that this life force of the blood is not just in our brains and in our body, but it's in the whole universe, the life force. And if you prick your finger or if you cut your cheek or whatever, the blood that comes out from any part, it's not separate. In other words, the blood stream, the stream of life is flowing together. The atoms are together. Everything is in reality oneness. And so the idea that things are separate is not really true. And in these 18 blessings, like of the Amidah, of the Shmona Esrei, which we're going to talk about a little bit more, the third one is supposedly the most holiest, and it's the one that is the Kedushat Hashem, where we bless Hashem's name, and we say it's the most holy because it speaks from the heart, and it's in the heart. The heart has a pocket on the top of it, which is also encased in fluid that kind of protects it, and it's called the periocardial cavity, and that little pocket, which is in the top, it's written that this is what spreads holiness to the person. And I'll show you another picture. I'll show you this one first. Can you see this now?
Not yet.
Yeah. So this is from the book. It's a little complicated, but basically you see the cord, you see the mitzvah